necessarily I later learned that's also called producing, but growing up it was just living. And so when I got to film school, actually, that was one of the things that inspired my program. But I also was very active. I was an organizer. And so I really started looking at resources differently, and looking at, even with the university, for example, like we have this amazing equipment room, we have amazing, intellectual wealth, but over the summer, most people would go and have internships in LA and et cetera. So I was like, okay, note to self, there's thousands of dollars of equipment sitting in a room locked up for 3 weeks. Meanwhile, I'm going to pay money. And I did it and went to LA and worked for Harvey Levin, who's on TMZ, and spent a summer logging tape for him. And so I basically, the year before we shot My Bilal Stan, I produced another feature. And that one was that's a little bit more of a Hollywood story. I was an RA in the dorms, and one of my residents, his mom was dating Woody Allen's agent psychiatrist. And he was this.
The way you said that so naturally, it has to be true.
That is exactly what happened. And he was from this wealthy family in Westwood and like Beverly Hills adjacent, and in LA. And long story short, his mom was dating this guy, and he had written a script, and he went to Harvard Westlake, which is like prep school in LA. And the agents who were Woody Allen's agent read it, and they were like, "Oh wow, this is really good." And he just did it as a favor to his friend because it was his friend's girlfriend's son's script, right? And then we got $100,000. And
one rich guy.
From 80 from the rich guy and 20 from the rich mom. And then I convinced him that it was a better investment for his son than graduate school, because his son was thinking of going to graduate school at USC. So I told him, no one's making feature films, so wouldn't it be amazing to shoot a feature film? And I convinced him that we could do it way cheaper here than he'd ever be able to do it in LA. So he agreed, and so he gave us the money.
So how did you find the money for Below Stand then?
There was never any money. We wrote lots of grants. So that film it's about a high school kid from Detroit trying to get to college, and the struggles that he goes through being a sort of first generation college student. And he takes up ice sculpting to win a scholarship, but doesn't tell his family. So we went after a lot of grants that were education based. We got, I think Arts at Michigan was a program. Terry we were teaching, so it was a part of a class. So I planned the producing of the film as part of the class. So we were able to use all the equipment. I think we probably used $100,000 worth of equipment from the university. Insurance, all locations. Shot in the Law Quad at Michigan, which is beautiful. Shot at the admissions office, because he goes to the admissions office in the scene. So my style, I took basically community organizing and dropped it onto filmmaking. So I had already known all these people because I used to do organizing with the admissions office. They're always trying to reach out to inner city kids. So I went to them and I was like, I got a movie about an inner city kid who's going to come to Michigan. Let me use your location. And then I would do that with basically I would give a pitch to like any person. And then we mobilized our team. So we taught all of our students how to give a business pitch, and then the kids had to go knocking on doors. So instead of paying, like the last feature I produced, our budget was probably $25,000 for catering. We just sent kids out and knocked on doors, and like Peter Pitt sponsored us for a week. Mongolian Barbecue sponsored us for 3 days. Buffalo Wild Wings for 2 days. So we just got every day of the film set covered with food sponsorships, because high school students and college students were knocking on the door saying, do you want to support a film about a kid trying to get to college?
And all made local with all locals.
All local, yeah. And then a lot of them, some people would offer up, like we went to a church, and to this day I'm still friends with the pastor and because we had a funeral scene, and they gave us somebody donated flowers from like a florist shop, a coffin from somebody's uncle, our makeup girl's uncle in Midland, Michigan, worked at
an unused coffin.
It was the model that they used for the display. So it was unused, never used model for the coffin, yes. But we approached everything like that. Every ounce of producing, it was somebody's something. But then we would usually hook them in based on the subject matter of the film. And then that later just became my style of filmmaking.
That's great. And it's so hard, no matter how good of a writer and how well you put stuff together, it's so difficult to get actors who are right for stuff. Do you feel you got lucky, or did you go through a pretty long rehearsal process? How did you find everyone?
We got really lucky. Julian Gant came to one of our auditions, and it was like he was just born for the role. Like you've experienced magic moments as a filmmaker sometimes, and one of them is when somebody walks through the door who's just this person that you wrote, and Julian was that to a T. And he got the character. He understood. So my approach is usually I actually like to work with people who aren't that well trained. But he understood the person that he understood the character. He knew that guy. He was that guy to a certain extent. And so more than again, because I'm not such a stickler for like what I've written or how I've presented something, I would usually just say, it's like I remember we had a scene with a cop, and I forgot what I had written, but he was just horrible. He was just horrible. He had like 3 lines, and he could not deliver these lines. I take him outside and I throw him against the wall, and then I'm like, you're a black man in Detroit, you know what cops are like. Come in here and do it right. And then I push him again, and then walk in and go, action. And he came and he nailed it like in a heartbeat. And so that's like, I didn't always get physical with people, but he was bigger than me. So I use people's real instincts and try to work with that.
But you did gloss over real quick, like an important part of the story. The kid takes up ice sculpting, which is really high concept for any fucking city, much less it was shot in the summer. So why did you come on with ice sculpting?
Well, it was semi-autobiographical. So I did ice sculpting in high school. So he said, talk about what you know. So I did ice sculpting.
Ice sculpting is in your backyard?
With the
chainsaw and everything?
Yeah, and chisels and blowtorches and
awesome.
But I went to high school in Romulus, and so a lot of that area, Romulus, Belleville, it's right by the airport, Detroit Metro Airport. And so they have a lot of trade programs that cater to that. And so I never took an art class. I was sort of an AP nerdy kid. And only the pothead kids took art in my high school. And I later learned that lots of intelligent, successful people are potheads also. But at the time, they used it as sort of a tracking mechanism, I don't know. And so I just wasn't allowed to take art because good kids didn't do that. And so I heard an announcement over the PA system for ice sculpting one time, and then I was like, that sounds awesome. And then luckily all of our actors were down to wield chainsaws as well, so it worked out.
And so at the end of the process, did it all end up staying low budget? It really was successful enough to...
Once we got into Sundance, I love Sundance, they're my family, but that shit is expensive. So we finished the film, we made on the shoestring budget, we get into Sundance, we needed to raise like $30,000 to play it. To put that in perspective, we shot on 16 millimeter film. So and this was 4 years later. So we had to go back, get our film from this lab. It's like in a freezer somewhere, and then like retransfer all of the film, and then do color correction for all of that. Do audio, redo an audio mix for all of that. We had to sort of go back and rebuild the film from scratch because I had been editing it for 4 years. So and then we just to get there, and I mean we took a lot of people too. We took 35 people, I think, by the end of the day that went to Sundance. So ultimately it stayed low budget, but to polish it we needed some more.
And then after that, like, what is the reception for this type of film? Do you feel that people outside of Detroit, like, does it resonate as a cool local film or an individual vision, as opposed to somebody that didn't know Detroit coming here and making a film?
Yeah, that's one of another sort of gym memory. It was at the Sundance the first filmmaker reception, first event I go to, and I'm still thinking that they're going to discover that they made a mistake. And I'm like kind of like being low key, trying to like suss it out. And then I'm there, and Trevor, who's one of the lead programmers, was there, and then we ran into each other at the cocktail table or something, and then he's like, "Oh, what film did you do?" And I go, "Bilal Stan," and then he starts telling me about my movie and like what he thought about it, and like and it reminded him of like old neo-realist movement, and I was like, that's what we were trying to do. And so that was one of like the highest points is when and then I played New Directors, New Films in MoMA at Lincoln Center, and like you're on the stage, and then we had a huge discussion about third cinema because the person who was facilitating was really into it, and so it was definitely like people saw so much into it, and then it kind of took on a life of its own. Like that movie became my life for the next 4 years after it took 4 years to finish it. And
how did it benefit you, or how did you have to make it work to kind of so it would still be a part of your life, whether financially or just emotionally?
All of the above. I basically self-distributed essentially. So everybody wants distribution. You want theatrical distribution if you're lucky, and then no one would offer it. It was a bad year at Sundance. It was 2010. Which is a rough year for a lot of films, specifically films with people of color. Like no distributors were picking up anything. If you're lucky, you got a decent deal from Netflix. Amazon wasn't yet buying stuff, to date myself, and so no theatrical. There's no names in it. It's low budget. It's too artsy for urban film, and it's too urban for an art house film. No one would touch it. But in the 4 years that it took me to finish the movie, Terry Saris and I, we got a research fellowship through this thing, the National Center for Institutional Diversity. And another long story short, we got a fellowship to finish the movie, but to screen the movie as part of the screening series called Enabling Diversity Conversations. And so I had already screened it, and I would screen the film, edit it, screen the film, edit it, screen the film, edit it. And I probably did that for, 2 years, Terry, before we even submitted to Sundance. So the version that got sent to Sundance had already been screened and re-edited, I think about 25 times. And then, because of that, I knew my movie. And that's why I tell filmmakers, a lot of people ask me about distribution, and I'm like, know your movie. Like, I knew who my movie worked for. I knew how to talk about my film. I knew who loved my film. I knew who would cry in my film. I knew who would not be that interested in my film. And so when distributors started telling me that there wasn't an audience, I was like, you just don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, there is an audience. And I've seen them 40 times. And I went to 22 film festivals after Sundance. I think we only applied to... Did we apply to any, Terry? I don't think we applied to any other film festivals. They just see your film and then come up to you after, then they want to show it. So then Seattle, MoMA, and then the Crystal Heart, Truly Moving Pictures, and they all saw it. And then other people see you at that festival, and then they bring you back, and then they bring you back, and it's sort of this snowball effect. And so I basically started a screening series because we had a curriculum that went along with the film. And so to date, we've screened the film 177 times in 55 cities over 5 years.
And so you gave theaters like something else to go with it, like the curriculum.
Yeah, and I would travel with it, and I became a sort of motivational speaker person going to high school because it's about my life, about a kid trying to get to college, and there's this sort of funny parallel because we were shooting behind the scenes footage, so it's this Cinderella story of us trying to finish this movie that we kind of went for broke on that ends up going to Sundance, and it's a story about a kid trying to get to college. So I then would go to high schools and colleges around the country and show the movie and talk about sort of the importance of following your dreams. And
did you discover other resources from Detroit and Michigan just by making the film that you didn't know about before?
Yeah, well, I was really involved in the art side of organizing, and so there's like Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs, Michigan Film Office. Like they started the film incentive while I was on tour with the film, and so there are a lot of local, more like on the art side. They're slowly starting to move towards building film resources. I usually came at things from based on the subject matter of the film, and then would kind of use that. So people cared about race issues, people cared about gentrification, people cared about education, and then be like, and we're going to do a media piece about that. So I probably had, I'd say 10 times as much success getting funding from social justice and educational resources than I have from film resources. For that film, at least.
Because once you start selling the film as like, oh, this is entertainment, then the bar is like too high. The money expectations are too ridiculous. people, a different type of investor gets involved?
Yeah, I mean, so I produced another feature that we had just finished shooting when Bilal Hussein went to Sundance. It was a $2 million film called Muslim, which a lot of local people know about. And then that one was a total opposite experience. It was very sort of Hollywood and.
But then the pressure's on, like you got to pay people back, and
you got to try. And so you make all of your decisions because you're at the mercy of these sort of investors and what they want to see, and they don't care as much about your artistic whatever because they wrote a big check.
Right. What are 2 or 3 things that you were really scared or nervous about when you started the film process that you just found a way to overcome? We talked a little bit about like networking for.
Starting making my film.
Yeah.
Terry's laughing. We have silent moments that we both know what the other person's thinking. I was feeling myself at the time. If I'm honest, I had done a bunch of stuff on campus. I was really active and involved and plugged in. I have a really random story.